So here we are outside the barn with a bunch of multicolored buckets. Why on earth would we have so many different colors of buckets? We're about to tell you. So today we are out in front of the barn working on a really small job, adding to, I guess, what we have going on for processing some of the feed for our animals. And basically this is just a very simple sprouting setup. We started with the chickens, we do it with the larger animals too, and we're adding another set of buckets. The principle is super simple. You put your whole grains into the top bucket, and you have another bucket underneath it. There's several holes drilled in the bottom of the top bucket, and you basically soak it with water. And there's different variations on this. You can leave it soaking for 24 hours, or you can leave it soaking for less than that. But basically what happens is the grains sprout, and of course that is basically, I'm not going to say adding nutrition, probably is, but you're unlocking some nutrients and potentially gaining a little bit of mass and some water weight and that sort of thing into your feed.
It helps to make them more digestible, those nutrients, right?
Also true. It allows for the grains to be more digestible, more easily broken down because they don't have to chew as much, and digestive juices and stuff can get in. So we're going to show you what we've got going on already, and then we're going to show you what we're in the process of doing. So here are two of our bucket setups, and as you can see, very simple. One bucket nestled inside another one. This is our chicken mix, and it's not very well mixed. That's okay because we stir this before we feed it. But you can see it's all starting to sprout.
And this would still have one more day of sprouting.
Yes, so you'll get a little bit more germination going on. Now we don't grow this out to be like proper fodder, but still, this is a great way to use a mix of grains. And you can see there's millet in there, wheat, oats, barley, and sunflower seeds. We also do mix in, we don't have any in this particular bucket, but we do mix in some legumes, lentils, and occasionally chickpeas into the chicken feed, and yeah, that's basically what you get, and they love it. I'll show you here. From a chicken perspective, one thing we do find is they waste very little with this whole grain mix. They pretty much eat everything you throw at them, which is good. We've fed like cracked grain mixes, or chop, maybe is one word for it, in the past, and we've found a lot of wastage with it. But as you can see, these young roosters and this hen that's just joining them definitely approve. And here's the other bucket, and this is for the larger animals. So this is a mix, it's the same ingredients, well, a few less actually. This is mostly oats with a little bit of barley and a little bit of wheat. And we use this quite a bit for the sheep. And when we had the cows, we were feeding them a little bit. The goats ate it. Even the horse, we don't feed a lot, but gets it as well. And you notice even with the horses, there's a lot less coming out the back end. So to speak. So very similar mix between the two buckets, just slightly different quantities, I guess. And we're not going to go into that in this video, but that's why we have these two different colored bucket systems. So the white buckets are for the chicken feed, the blue buckets for the larger animal feed, i.e. the sheep and whatnot right now. So this bucket system has larger holes than the chicken one, and that's because of the millet that we put in. The millet's quite small, and you have to have basically a hole size that won't allow that to pass through into your bottom buckets. So the blue bucket is about an eighth of an inch holes in the drilled in the bottom, and the white bucket is smaller, basically. So the big thing with this system, to keep it simple when you're out doing chores, we've basically chosen buckets of different colors. There's no brand loyalty here. They're all food grade utility buckets, I guess would be the best way to put it. And we've basically chosen from different stores because they have their buckets poured in different colors. So when you're out in the barn, or you're trying to give somebody else direction, you can basically say, hey, the blue one's for the sheep, the white one's for the chickens. It's very easy to not get things mixed up because they do have slightly different ratios of what we've mixed into them. But of course, we have multiple buckets in the barn, so the colors is nice, which is why...
What's the orange one going to be for, Christopher?
That's why we are going with an orange bucket next, because we're starting another set of buckets. So our bucket system is a 3-day bucket system, so that requires 6 buckets and 3 lids, because you do want to put a lid on these. Not so much because of the grain, but to keep things out. Whether it's chickens or rodents, they all love this stuff. So the lids are important, and we just get the same color lid. But the orange buckets are going to be for a grain mixture that we're going to start sprouting for the pigs. And so what we're basically going to have is white buckets, chickens. Blue buckets are going to be mostly sheep and geese. We find that the sheep and geese do really well off of a similar
blend.
A more oat heavy blend. And then we're going to do some experimenting with the pigs. So we don't have a blend sort of mastered yet, but we need the buckets. So we're going to go through how easy this is to do and set yourself up. And it's a relatively low cost endeavor because these 5-gallon buckets are not exactly expensive. So when you're getting that added, I'm going to say added value, at least on a homestead scale, with the sprouted grains, it's worth it.
And see, in the time of discussion of multicolored buckets and why they're multicolored, the chickens ate all the grains.
Everything.
Everything. Gone. It's like candy to them.
And they're not starving by any means.
Oh gosh, no, they're not starving.
So your tool list is super simple for this. Basically a drill with the appropriately sized bit.
1/8.
The 1/8. And your bucket. Now you can, if you want to get fancy, you can mark them all out ahead of time. I have done that in the past. I'm not going to, but you basically just want to have a fairly good coverage of holes on the bottom of your bucket. So because it's a 3-day system, you're drilling holes in 3 of the buckets basically, and the other 3 are staying solid. So you're dedicating them to this cause, but I mean, what are they, like $5?
Not even.
Not even.
$3.99, I think.
That's Canadian, so it's not exactly...
Check out your local store to get your exact price.
Yeah, you can collect all sorts of different colors of buckets.
Where were we the other day? We found a different color. They were yellow. Home Hardware is yellow, so we got to find something else to feed.
So if we decide to diversify even more and specialize, we can do that as long as we have different colored buckets. But I'm going to go ahead and drill these in, because that's not exactly exciting, and come back when I'm done. And there you go. 1. Done. Now you can go through, you'll see that sometimes there's little burrs. You can go through and clean that up. I'm just going to quickly knock that into another bucket so that I don't lose it here all over the place. It's a little dirty on the inside, but...
You probably got about 50 holes in there. No,
yeah.
Probably even more than that, actually.
It's just
Maybe
enough to make sure
75.
that when you're filling it with the water, it drains out when you pull it out. The premise is simple. You put your bucket in like so, you do your soaking, and then when you pull it out, it all drains into the bottom bucket. So there's all 3, all done. And obviously we're starting the rotation here for the first time today. So this is the only one we've mixed up. Now, I'm not going to go into details at the moment, but this is a mix of oats, wheat, and barley that we're going to sprout. And we are going to come back to this because we're going to play around with some ration mixes and some various ways to go about this. And we're going to actually refine things for some of our other animals, because why not? It's a good idea to revisit things every now and then. You can always improve, and this is definitely an improvement. So really not the most exciting, but these buckets become a very useful tool. I mean, they last forever as long as you don't leave them somewhere where they get broken. We're going to go ahead, get this soaking, and see how they do in 3 days from now.